Hello and welcome to my channel. Before moving on, hit the like button and subscribe and press the bell icon and comment your country. In March 2008, the body of 38-year-old Daniel Carrington was discovered in the dimly lit basement of The Crest, a luxury condominium building in the heart of downtown Chicago. What initially appeared to be a tragic crime quickly unraveled into something far darker. A sinister web of fraud, corruption, and betrayal involving one of Chicago's wealthiest developers, Victor Lal. On the chilly morning of March 6, 2008, a desperate 911 call was placed by a maintenance worker at the Crest. His voice quivered with fear as he described a shocking scene: a man lying motionless on the cold cement floor, a dark pool of blood spreading beneath his head. The caller's panic was palpable. He had stumbled upon something no one should ever witness. When the police arrived, they were greeted by an eerie silence, broken only by the distant hum of the building's aging furnace. The basement, used primarily for storage, was dimly illuminated by flickering fluorescent lights, casting unsettling shadows across the walls. Daniel's body lay near the utility room, lifeless and undisturbed, as if frozen in time. A single gunshot wound to the back of his head told a story of precise and cold execution. It was chillingly clear. This was no random act of violence. Adding to the strangeness of the scene was Daniel's immaculate appearance. His tailored gray suit remained pristine, and his briefcase sat undisturbed nearby, its contents untouched. It seemed as though he had been ambushed during a routine day, unaware of the deadly fate awaiting him. The police officers couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than a murder. It was a calculated message, one designed to send shockwaves through certain circles. By mid-afternoon, the investigators confirmed the victim's identity. Daniel Carrington, a prominent 38-year-old accountant, was renowned for his razor-sharp intellect and unflappable demeanor. He had climbed the ranks of Chicago's financial elite, earning admiration from colleagues and clients alike. Yet, behind the polished exterior, Daniel's personal life was in disarray. His marriage to Natalie Carrington had ended 2 years prior, leaving a trail of estrangement and whispers of hidden troubles. Detectives first turned to Natalie, hoping her insights might shed light on the mystery. Brought in for questioning on March 8th, she appeared visibly shaken, struggling to reconcile the man she once loved with the victim of such a brutal crime. Reflecting on their turbulent marriage, Natalie painted a picture of a driven, yet increasingly distant Daniel. His relentless ambition had created a chasm between them, culminating in their separation. But it was her revelation about their last conversation that left investigators intrigued. Daniel, she said, had recently confided in her, mentioning a growing fear of someone he cryptically referred to as a shadow. When pressed for more details, Daniel had deflected, leaving Natalie worried yet powerless to intervene. Next on the detective's list was Julian Price, Daniel's business partner and closest professional ally, or so it seemed. Julian, known for his charm and sharp wit, painted a picture of their relationship as strictly professional. But as detectives probed deeper, subtle hesitations in his responses hinted at unspoken truths. Julian admitted that Daniel's behavior had taken a paranoid turn in recent weeks. He described him as jittery, often looking over his shoulder and murmuring cryptic phrases about cleaning house. Despite Julian's apparent cooperation, the detectives couldn't ignore a lingering tension in his demeanor. Was he simply grieving, or was he hiding something? As they sifted through Julian's accounts, they found themselves drawn into a tangled web of suspicion, deceit, and hidden agendas. The investigation into Daniel's murder took a dramatic turn when detectives searched his apartment. Among the neatly arranged possessions was a laptop, locked behind layers of sophisticated encryption. The effort required to access the files hinted at the importance of the secrets within. After days of meticulous work, forensic analysts broke through the first layer of encryption. What they uncovered was shocking. A sprawling $15 million tax evasion scheme involving shell companies, falsified invoices, and influential figures pulling the strings. Daniel wasn't a mere observer in this scheme. He was one of its architects. Yet the files suggested a man trapped by forces beyond his control. The complexity of the operation and the prominence of the names involved made it clear. Daniel wasn't just killed to silence him. His murder was a message meant to protect something far greater. The revelations from Daniel's encrypted files turned the investigation on its head. Among the names frequently mentioned was Victor Lal, a billionaire developer whose empire spanned across states and dominated skylines with towering luxury projects. Lal had long been a polarizing figure in Chicago, revered by some as a visionary and whispered about by others as a man who thrived in the murky waters of legality. Detectives couldn't overlook the sinister implications of Daniel's involvement. What had once been seen as a brilliant accountant's untimely death now appeared to be the unraveling of a much larger conspiracy. Questions loomed. Had Daniel intended to expose the operation? Or had he been silenced before he could act? As the investigation continued, more cracks began to appear within the network of corruption. One of Daniel's co-conspirators, Bradley Knox, became a particularly troubling figure. A brash and impulsive businessman, Knox had grown increasingly dissatisfied with his share of the profits. By late 2007, his frustration boiled over into reckless threats, demanding a larger cut or vowing to expose the entire operation. This recklessness alarmed Daniel, who was already plagued by his own guilt and paranoia. He knew Knox's unpredictability posed a danger to everyone involved. But before Daniel could act, the unthinkable happened. In January 2008, Knox's car was found abandoned on the outskirts of the city. Bloodstains on the driver's seat painted a grim picture, but his body was never recovered. The message was chillingly clear. Those who threatened the operation would pay the ultimate price. Amid the growing chaos, investigative journalist Emily Vargas was closing in on the truth. Known for her fearless reporting, Emily had been scrutinizing Lal's developments for months. Public records showed glaring inconsistencies tied to Lal's projects, and her relentless digging had already unearthed unsettling clues about financial misconduct. In December 2007, Emily crossed paths with Daniel at a high-profile charity gala. Her questions were casual on the surface, but their implications were razor-sharp. "What can you tell me about the discrepancies in Lal's accounts?" she asked with a knowing smile. Daniel, visibly rattled, excused himself quickly, but the encounter left him shaken. That night, he confided in his closest confidant, Julian Price, revealing the mounting pressure and his fear that the walls were closing in. Julian's response was pragmatic. "Go to the authorities," he advised, urging Daniel to seek protection in exchange for cooperation. But Daniel hesitated. The shadow of Lal's influence loomed too large, and his fear of retaliation kept him silent. By early February 2008, Daniel's paranoia had reached a fever pitch. Emily's exposé was gaining traction, and Lal's suspicion of leaks within his circle grew stronger. Daniel's once steady demeanor began to crumble under the weight of guilt, fear, and the knowledge that he had become entangled in something far bigger than himself. Desperate to protect himself, Daniel began compiling evidence, emails, financial records, and documents detailing the operation's illegal activities. In the dim solitude of his apartment, he encrypted these damning files and backed them up on a secure drive, which he cleverly hid inside a hollow lamp base. This evidence, he hoped, would be his lifeline. Finally, on February 21st, Daniel confided in Julian once more, outlining his plan to expose the operation and cooperate with authorities. Over coffee in a quiet cafe, he detailed his intentions with a trembling voice. "I can't live like this anymore," he confessed. What Daniel didn't know was that Julian, deeply indebted to Lal, had already made his choice. Betrayal was imminent. Within hours of their meeting, Julian met with Lal in the back room of an upscale restaurant. The air was heavy with tension as Julian revealed Daniel's intentions. Lal's response was chillingly calm. "We'll handle it," he said with an icy certainty that left no room for doubt. On March 5th, 2008, Lal made his move. Using his charm and calculated manipulation, he convinced Daniel to meet him at the Crest, under the guise of a private discussion to dissolve their partnership. Desperate for a way out, Daniel agreed. That evening he arrived at the luxury condominium, unaware he was walking into a trap. Directed to the basement level for privacy, Daniel hesitated briefly before stepping into the dimly lit space. The hum of machinery echoed around him, amplifying the uneasy silence. Suddenly, he found himself face to face with a masked figure. Before he could react, a gunshot shattered the quiet. Daniel collapsed instantly, his lifeless body hitting the cold cement floor. The killer melted into the shadows, leaving behind only silence and a growing pool of blood. The next morning, a maintenance worker stumbled upon Daniel's lifeless body in the basement of the Crest. His frantic 911 call set off a chain of events that would finally bring the truth to light. Investigators quickly retrieved Daniel's encrypted files from his apartment, and forensic experts worked tirelessly to break through the layers of security. By March 10th, the damning evidence was unveiled, an intricate web of corruption involving Victor Lal, Julian Price, and several high-profile city officials. The files exposed more than financial fraud. They revealed bribes, kickbacks, and the misuse of public funds funneled through Lal's developments. The documents even hinted at Bradley Knox's disappearance, tying it to the dark underbelly of the operation. For investigators, the evidence was overwhelming, but it also raised more questions. How deep did the corruption run, and how many others were complicit in protecting Lal's empire? Journalist Emily Vargas played a pivotal role in piecing the puzzle together. Her relentless reporting, combined with the newly uncovered evidence, provided investigators with critical context. By mid-March, the investigation had gained significant momentum, and all eyes turned toward Julian Price. Julian, once seen as Daniel's trusted partner, found himself under intense scrutiny. Surveillance footage placed him near the Crest on the night of Daniel's murder, and his alibi quickly unraveled. Detectives confronted him with mounting evidence, and Julian's attempts to deflect blame only deepened their suspicions. By March 15th, Julian was arrested, his involvement in the scheme and knowledge of Daniel's death becoming undeniable. The trail of evidence didn't stop there. It led straight to Victor Lal. Investigators uncovered a network of shell companies and offshore accounts meticulously designed to hide millions in laundered funds. Lal's fingerprints were all over the operation, and his arrest on March 20th sent shockwaves through Chicago's elite. The once untouchable billionaire now faced a reckoning as the scope of his corruption became public knowledge. Daniel Carrington's encrypted files became the cornerstone of the prosecution's case, sparking a wave of arrests and revelations that rattled the city's political and business communities. Emily Vargas's exposé brought the story to light, shining a harsh spotlight on the systemic corruption that had flourished in Chicago's power circles. Despite the progress, the fallout was bittersweet. Daniel's death weighed heavily on those who had been closest to him. For Natalie Carrington, his estranged widow, the revelations about Daniel's involvement in Lal's scheme were heartbreaking. The man she had once loved was now tied to a scandal of epic proportions. Yet, as more details emerged, she began to understand the fear and guilt that had driven him in his final days. His decision to expose the operation, even at the cost of his life, became an act of redemption she couldn't ignore. In 2010, Natalie established the Carrington Foundation, a non-profit organization dedicated to protecting whistleblowers and combating corporate corruption. Using assets recovered from Lal's empire, the Foundation became a beacon of hope for those trapped in unethical systems. Natalie poured her energy into building partnerships with investigative journalists and legal experts, determined to ensure that Daniel's sacrifice wouldn't be forgotten. Meanwhile, Emily Vargas emerged as a symbol of journalistic integrity. Her articles, rooted in Daniel's encrypted files and her dogged investigation, captured public attention and earned her a Pulitzer Prize for investigative journalism in 2009. While the recognition was a testament to her courage, Emily couldn't escape the emotional toll of the case. The deeper she dug, the more she uncovered about the pervasive nature of corruption. It left her questioning whether true justice was possible in a system so deeply flawed. Chicago was left reeling in the wake of the scandal. The arrests of Victor Lal, Julian Price, and several city officials forced the government to implement reforms aimed at increasing transparency and accountability. New regulations were introduced to prevent the kind of fraudulent practices that had plagued Lal's empire. Yet, whispers of ongoing corruption lingered, a reminder that change comes slowly in systems built on greed. For the city's residents, Daniel's story became a cautionary tale and a symbol of hope. To some, he was a man whose ambition led him astray. To others, he was a tragic hero who sought redemption at great personal cost. His encrypted files not only exposed corruption, but also forced the city to confront uncomfortable truths about power and privilege. For those closest to Daniel, his memory remained a constant presence. Emily Vargas, though she rarely spoke publicly about the case, kept a framed copy of one of Daniel's encrypted files on her desk, a silent reminder of the power of truth. Natalie often visited a small garden she had planted in his honor, a place of quiet reflection on the man he had been and the legacy he left behind. Daniel Carrington's story was anything but simple. It was messy, imperfect, and filled with contradictions. Yet, amidst the grief and disillusionment, there were glimmers of hope and acts of courage that reminded everyone that even in the darkest moments, redemption is possible. Despite her public success, Emily Vargas found herself wrestling with the emotional toll of Daniel's story. While her Pulitzer Prize in 2009 was a crowning achievement, it came with a heavy burden. The deeper she delved into the case, the more she uncovered layers of corruption and deceit that extended far beyond Victor Lal's empire. Each revelation, while crucial to justice, left her questioning the integrity of the systems she once believed in. Emily turned down lucrative offers to write books or host television specials about the case, choosing instead to focus on mentoring the next generation of journalists. She believed in the power of investigative reporting, even as she acknowledged its dangers. The truth, she often told her mentees, is rarely black and white, but when you find it, you owe it to the world to share it, no matter the cost. Behind closed doors, Emily struggled with moments of doubt and fatigue. The investigation had changed her, stripping away the idealism she once carried. Yet, it also strengthened her resolve to fight for accountability in a world that often preferred silence. Her work inspired countless young journalists, solidifying her legacy as a fearless voice for justice. For Natalie Carrington, the years following Daniel's death were a whirlwind of grief, reflection, and determination. The revelations about his role in Lal's scheme had initially left her feeling betrayed. However, as she learned more about his final days, his fear, his guilt, and his decision to expose the corruption, she found a sense of purpose in preserving his memory. The Carrington Foundation, established in 2010, became her lifeline. Focused on aiding whistleblowers and exposing corporate crime, it quickly grew into a respected institution. Natalie worked tirelessly behind the scenes, collaborating with investigative journalists, legal experts, and advocacy groups. The Foundation's successes included supporting high-profile cases and offering protection to individuals facing retaliation for speaking out. Natalie's quiet determination resonated with those who worked alongside her. She turned her pain into a mission, one colleague remarked. Natalie ensured that Daniel's sacrifice wasn't in vain. Yet, for Natalie, the work was deeply personal. It was her way of honoring the man Daniel had tried to become in his final moments, a man who sought redemption, no matter the cost. The fallout from the Lal scandal sent shockwaves through Chicago's political and business communities. The arrests of Victor Lal, Julian Price, and several city officials forced the city government to take action. Sweeping reforms were introduced, including new transparency measures for development projects and stricter oversight of public funds. Yet, despite these efforts, whispers of ongoing corruption persisted. The scandal had exposed only a fraction of the entrenched systems of power and privilege that had allowed figures like Lal to thrive. For many Chicagoans, the case was a wake-up call, highlighting the need for vigilance and accountability. The city changed, a resident later reflected, but not as much as we hoped. There's still work to do. Daniel's encrypted files became a symbol of both the city's failures and its potential for change. They forced the community to confront difficult truths while sparking conversations about morality, justice, and the cost of complicity. Daniel Carrington's story became a touchstone for debates about ambition, redemption, and the pursuit of justice. To some, he was a tragic figure whose moral compromises ultimately cost him everything. To others, he was a hero who tried to make amends, even at the risk of his life. His encrypted files not only exposed corruption, but also served as a reminder of the power of individual action in the face of overwhelming odds. For those who knew him best, Daniel's memory remained both a source of pain and inspiration. Emily Vargas kept his story alive through her mentorship and investigative work. Natalie found solace in her advocacy, ensuring that whistleblowers had the support Daniel never did. Together, their efforts carried forward his legacy, turning a tragedy into a catalyst for change. Daniel Carrington's death may have started as a grim mystery, but its impact reached far beyond the quiet basement of the Crest. His encrypted files uncovered the truth, shook a city to its core, and inspired a movement for accountability. Yet the story of his life and death was anything but straightforward. It was messy, filled with contradictions, and deeply human, a reminder that even flawed actions can lead to profound change. For Chicago, the case became a pivotal moment in its history, forcing the city to confront its darkest corners. For Emily and Natalie, it was a deeply personal journey that reshaped their lives, and for Daniel, his final act of courage ensured that his story would not be forgotten. The revelations from Daniel's encrypted files did not just impact Chicago, they sent ripples far and wide. News outlets across the country picked up the story, framing it as a cautionary tale of ambition gone awry and the destructive power of unchecked corruption. Public figures referenced the case as a catalyst for conversations about accountability in politics and corporate governance. It became a symbol of the risks and sacrifices required to expose wrongdoing. Beyond the headlines, the impact of the case was deeply felt in professional circles. The accounting and financial industries, once hesitant to acknowledge their vulnerabilities, began implementing stricter ethical training and oversight measures. Harper and Gray, the firm where Daniel had once been a star, faced scrutiny and internal reform efforts to prevent future complicity in fraudulent schemes. At universities and conferences, Daniel's story became a case study for law students, accountants, and journalists. It was a stark reminder of how ethical decisions, no matter how difficult, can shape lives and legacies. As one lecturer put it, this isn't just a story of greed. It's about the cost of silence and the power of choosing to act, even when the stakes are insurmountable. The Carrington Foundation's work became a beacon of hope for whistleblowers. Over the years, it supported numerous individuals who risked their careers and sometimes their lives to expose wrongdoing in various industries. These stories, though less publicized than Daniel's, carried the same weight of courage and determination. Natalie, though often working behind the scenes, became a respected figure in advocacy circles. Her quiet but relentless dedication to the foundation inspired others to step forward and join the fight against corporate corruption. "Every whistleblower we help is a testament to Daniel's bravery," she once said at a private fundraiser. "He didn't live to see the change he sparked, but it's our responsibility to carry it forward." The foundation's successes also fueled broader reforms. Laws were passed to strengthen protections for whistleblowers, ensuring they had legal safeguards against retaliation. These changes, though slow, marked a step toward a more just system, one where individuals like Daniel could speak out without fear of losing everything. Despite the progress, Chicago remained a city grappling with its identity. The Lal scandal may have forced reforms, but it didn't erase decades of systemic issues. For every corrupt official held accountable, others seemed to slip through the cracks. "The city's not perfect," one resident remarked years later, "but we've come a long way since Daniel Carrington's story broke." That's something. The public's relationship with power and trust had also shifted. Citizens became more vocal about demanding transparency, attending city council meetings, and questioning decisions with a renewed sense of purpose. Daniel's encrypted files had exposed a rot that many had suspected but lacked the evidence to confront. Now, those suspicions had become calls for action. Yet, whispers of backroom deals and under-the-table arrangements persisted. The battle against corruption was far from over, but Daniel's legacy served as a reminder that change, while slow, was possible. For Emily Vargas, the case continued to define her career and, in many ways, her life. Though she rarely revisited the details publicly, she remained a fierce advocate for investigative journalism. "This case taught me that truth is powerful, but it comes at a cost," she shared during a rare interview. "It's not just about uncovering the facts, it's about making sure those facts lead to accountability." In her quieter moments, Emily often reflected on Daniel's encrypted files. She kept a copy of the most pivotal document framed on her office wall, a silent testament to the man who had risked everything for justice. "His story reminds me why I do what I do," she said. "Even when it feels impossible, even when it's dangerous, the truth is always worth fighting for." Natalie, too, carried the weight of Daniel's story. The garden she had planted in his honor became a place of solace, where she could remember the man she had loved and lost. Through her work at the foundation, she channeled her grief into action, ensuring that Daniel's final act of bravery would not be in vain. Daniel Carrington's life and death became a symbol of the fragile balance between ambition, morality, and redemption. His encrypted files were not just evidence. They were a catalyst for change, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, the truth has the power to break through. For those who knew him, Daniel's memory was a constant presence. To Emily, he was the reason she continued to fight for transparency and justice. To Natalie, he was a reminder of the complexities of love, loss, and forgiveness. To the city of Chicago, he was both a cautionary tale and a source of hope, proving that even one voice can make a difference. In the end, Daniel Carrington's story was not about perfection. It was about humanity. It was a story of choices, consequences, and the enduring power of redemption. And as his encrypted files continued to inspire change, his legacy remained a testament to the courage it takes to confront the truth. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe and hit the like button. Comment your favorite part in the video.